Coming up, the doctor is in the house to answer your latest questions.
If somebody with coronavirus washes their hands and uses the towel, and then I use the same towel, will I get COVID?
Plus, what's fact and what's fiction? We'll get to the truth of the matter. And this 13-year-old has turned a passion into a business to help rescue animals. His inspiring story just ahead.
This is NBC Nightly News, Kids Edition.
Welcome back to Nightly News Kids Edition. I hope you guys are doing well. We've got some great stuff coming up, including an inspiring young man I can't wait for you to meet. But first, one of our top stories this week continues to be the coronavirus. School districts across the country are keeping a very watchful eye. This comes as cases at some colleges are driving some of the nation's outbreaks right now, forcing several schools to cancel in-person classes. Health officials continue to stress the importance of social distancing, wearing a mask, and avoiding crowds. Now let's get to your questions. Joining us now is our friend, Dr. John Torres. Dr. John, our first question comes from Canada today. Here it is.
Hello, Mr. Hall and Dr. John Torres. My name is Erie. I'm 9 years old and I live in Canada. My question for today is, what do we use to clean our glasses if somehow coronavirus gets on them? Should we use lens cleaner or disinfectant wipes? Thank you. Bye.
I love that background. Looks kind of like mine. Dr. John, what about it?
It does. And that's a good idea, actually. When you go out and about, you might get coronavirus on your glasses, so you need to know how to clean them. Absolutely the best way to clean them is simply soap and water in the sink. When you come back inside, do that. But a couple of things. You want to make sure that if you do use disinfecting wipes, which are okay to use, you only use them on the parts that are not the lens. The temple parts that go across your head and then parts that touch your nose. But be careful with the lens. On the lens, you want to use just regular lens cleanser. A couple of things you don't want to do. You don't want to breathe on the lenses like we used to do to try and clean those off. And you definitely don't want to put the glasses in your mouth. Main thing is when you come back inside, simply wash them off with soap and water, clean them off, dry them off with a soft towel, and then put them back on so you're ready to go.
I always learn something from you, Dr. John. I do the breath thing, so I won't do that anymore. Thank you for that important advice. Our next question comes from Seattle.
Hi, I'm Leah Zacharias.
Hi, I am Robel Zacharias.
And we live in Seattle, Washington. My question is, when we're wearing our mask and we take off our mask and cough or sneeze, is that safe?
My question is, when we go back to school, do we have to wear a mask all the time?
Thank you.
All right, Dr. John, what's your answer?
Well, let me answer the second question first. When you go back to school, you're probably going to have to wear a mask for a lot of the time, but maybe not all the time. And it depends on how the school has things set up. But if you're close to people, if there's no barriers between you and somebody else, then you'll probably have to wear a mask. As for the first question about coughing and sneezing, should you remove the mask? No, that's what the mask is for. If you think about it, if you cough and sneeze into a mask, the particles go into the mask, they don't go out. But if I don't have a mask and I cough and sneeze that way, the particles are going to go very far. They could get to somebody else, and they could get somebody sick if I have coronavirus. So that's the main purpose behind the mask, to protect other people from us, but it does protect us from other people as well.
And we got time for one more. This one comes from North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Amelia.
And I'm Ian.
And we live in North Carolina. And our question is, if somebody with coronavirus washes their hands and uses the towel, and then I use the same towel, will I get COVID? We love Nightly News Kids Edition.
Yes, that's what I want to hear. Great. And I love your puppy, guys. Dr. John?
Yeah, this is a great question as well, because you think about it, you wash your hands and as you're reaching for the towel, you're like, oh no, is that towel contaminated? The towel is going to be okay as long as the person before you and the person before them and the one before them did their 20-second hand wash. If they wash their hands for 20 seconds, and there's a variety of songs you can sing, then go ahead and dry it with that towel and leave that towel there for the next person, because it's going to be okay. But if they didn't do 20 seconds, then you want to be careful. You want to take that towel, wash it off in the laundry room, and then go ahead and get a new towel for yourself.
All right, Dr. John, thanks as always. All right, we are going to turn now to a subject I know may not be a fun one. Homework. You kids aren't the only ones who have to do homework. Us adults do too, especially journalists like myself. We know there are lots of serious things happening in the world right now, and through this show, we try to help you kids sort through everything so you have the right information at your disposal, because remember, knowledge is power. So here now are a few tips you can keep in mind when trying to get the right information. It may feel like every waking moment, news and information is coming at you, whether from family, friends, teachers, or social media. But what to believe? Everything that you read probably should go through simple checks to make sure the information you're reading is accurate.
News with
Good evening, everyone.
And I'm Lester Holt. Tonight,
I've always strived to deliver the truth, from my early days as a local news reporter to my job now at the Nightly News Anchor Desk. It's a big responsibility, and nothing is more important than earning the trust of the people who watch us. And so, as journalists, our job is to get the facts right. But it's important for you, too, to check the facts before you share information. We brought in 4th grade teacher Mr. Bedley with a few of his former students, Bella, Luna, Michael, and Sonia. Tell me about where you get most of your information.
Most of my information probably comes from Google and or from my parents that tell me what's on the news.
But should you believe everything you hear and read? How do you react when somebody tells you something really fantastic, amazing, surprising?
I just get shocked. I just it's too good to be true.
I'm sure at school, it happens all the time. Somebody will come up and say, "Did you hear?" And then they'll tell you a story that's just amazing. How do you deal with that kind of information? Do you start questioning it, or do you accept it as truth?
Well, I think it's because my brain mostly triggers me to accept it as the truth because I want to believe it's true. So then I'll go on and tell other people about it, not actually fact checking.
And Sonia, what about you? Do you, when somebody tells you something that just blows your socks off, do you go and tell other people, or do you check it out?
I feel like I'd first ask them for proof. If they'd give proof, then I'd be like, "Hey, did you know about this or something? Did they tell you?" I need to try and figure out if it's true or not.
Mr. Bedley, this is something you would typically do with your classes?
Yeah, we started looking at the amount of misinformation out there and realizing that we were relying a lot on the internet, as you could hear from our students. We wanted to give them some tools to deal with that.
Mr. Bedley teaches his students to look for what he calls tests of reliability, questions you can ask yourself. Does the information come from a well-known source? How does it compare to what you already know? How current is the information? Can you find the information from multiple sources? Does the information make sense? Are there experts in the field who would verify the information?
One of these things makes something truthful, but you put all these together and you have a chance at being a good fact checker and making sure they're more reliable.
All right, lots of research to do, folks. Thanks very much to Mr. Bedley and his students. And we journalists often have to do more than just use the internet to fact check. Often we pick up the phone, start making calls to chase down the sources and accuracy of a story. That's not something we expect most of you to do. And you know what? Sometimes it's really hard to get to the truth, as we discovered when we did a little exercise and tried to check out a story with Mr. Bedley and the kids. When we made our own calls a little later, and we couldn't confirm what we suspected was true, the takeaway: if you can't verify, it's best not to share it, or at least tell people what you do know about the possible source of the information. Now we want to take a moment to share a really sweet photo that caught our eye. 12-year-old Andrew is seen here in the middle of this photo with his new family. Kevin and Dominique Gill asked Andrew if he wanted to become a permanent part of their family. We're told the 7th grader broke down in tears when he heard his foster parents and that they wanted to adopt him. That's wonderful news, you guys. Chokes me up. Finally, we introduce you tonight to a teen in New Jersey who was handcrafting something special to save the lives of shelter animals near and far. Here's Kristen Dahlgren.
At just 13 years old, Sir Darius Brown is already an entrepreneur, helping furry friends through a time that may be a little rough. After Sir Darius was diagnosed with developmental delays, he started to make bow ties to develop his motor skills. He turned his hobby into a life-saving tool for shelter animals.
It will help them get them that push or that sparkle that they needed to get adopted.
So far, he's made more than 400 bow ties for shelters in New Jersey. And he shifted gears during the pandemic, sewing masks for healthcare workers on the front lines.
It gives positive energy and positive ripples because you're spreading positive things and you're doing good things, and not only for yourself, but for your community as well. When you help others, it makes you feel better as a person.
Already recognized by former President Barack Obama, Sir Darius's future is bright. The young man known for his bow ties, now tying his community together as well.
My man is looking sharp with those bow ties, huh? What a sweet story. Thanks, Kristen. Well, that's going to do it for us. Parents, a reminder, if your child has a question, send a video to us at nightlynewskids@nbcuni.com. Thanks, everybody, for watching. As usual, please take care of yourself and each other.